Hello, friend. I'm Jairus Days, and welcome to your Daily Detroit for Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, sharing what's new, what's next, and what matters in Metro Detroit. Can you believe it? It's 30 days until Halloween, 58 days until Thanksgiving, 85 days until Christmas, and just 92 days until 2025. That's right, we are on the back stretch of 2024. For today, let's do stories around town. Then Fletcher Sharpe will join me to talk Tigers in the playoffs against the Astros and the Lions beating the Seahawks on a national stage. Let's get started.
4.
Starting today, the City of Detroit's new Dining with Confidence Ordinance goes into effect with the goal of improving food safety and transparency in restaurants. The Detroit Health Department introduced the new restaurant inspection placard system with the aim of encouraging food safety compliance and educating the public. Going forward, restaurants in the city will have to display color-coded placards at their entrances indicating their inspection status. Green placards labeled in compliance will be given to establishments meeting strict health and safety standards. White signs will be used for newly opened restaurants or those not yet qualifying for a green one. Red ones marked closed will be issued to restaurants with severe violations or those operating without a valid license. You can see detailed inspection reports by scanning QR codes on the signs or visiting the city's restaurant inspection website. This ordinance was adopted after a previous proposal with letter grades or colors met heavy opposition from business groups.
3.
A little media about the media here. The Detroit Free Press says that they and the Detroit News will need to find a new home by the end of 2024. Their lease is up, and Bedrock, the landlord, is not doing an extension. The papers are separately owned but operate under a joint agreement as Michigan.com. The papers had been thinking there would be a lease extension. 3 months or so is a short time to have to move. I have no insight into how much of the operations were remote work. The physical papers, if you read those, are printed at other sites. The days, after all, of big rolling presses in the basement are long gone. At one time, each of the papers had their own operations and buildings on Lafayette on the western side of downtown Detroit. But habits have changed, and digital ads for text content pay dimes or pennies compared to print dollars. The former Free Press headquarters building down the street is now apartments, and the former Detroit News headquarters has been converted to offices. Now, in my mind, and this is speculation, this could mean that there are plans for the former Federal Reserve building, because if you're not going to take the extension, maybe there is something up for it. Location-wise, it would be great for a residential conversion, in my opinion, but again, that's speculation.
2.
Ridership is up for Detroit streetcar, the Q Line. Operations just transferred to the Regional Transit Authority of Southeast Michigan from the nonprofit M1 Rail, opening the 3.3-mile line up for more public and sustainable funding. A newly released report says that ridership was more than 1 million riders in 2023, up 25% year over year. And what does the survey say riders want? A dedicated lane for the streetcar and transit on Woodward. Now, there's currently a short section of it that is used for transit outside of Little Caesars Arena. It is the state of Michigan's only dedicated mass transit lane. Other interesting facts include that 33% of riders use the Q Line daily and 15% use the service weekly, plus half of riders are City of Detroit residents.
1.
The City of Sterling Heights in Macomb County is breaking ground on a new trail project. The ITC Trail, a 10-foot wide shared use path, will connect the Clinton River Trail to M59 with tie-ins to neighborhood sidewalks along the 2.5-mile route. Mayor Michael Taylor says the trail will promote outdoor activity and provide accessible transportation options for residents. The project, costing just under $3.2 million and funded by American Rescue Plan Act money, also includes improvements to the Edison Court trailhead. There will be new pavement, landscaping, dedicated parking, and a bioswale to help collect and filter stormwater runoff from the trail and parking lot. The project is expected to be completed by spring of 2025. Joining me on the line is none other than Fletcher Sharpe to talk about the Tigers the Lions, and all of that fun stuff. Fletcher Sharpe, good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Couple of things. Let's start with the Tigers and the playoffs, because amazingly, there's a bigger story than the Lions, I think. The series kicks off tonight. We've got 2, maybe 3 games to deal with in Houston. The betting lines are putting the Astros as the favorite on this game and the series. I don't know if I feel the same way. They're kind of low on Tarek Skubal, but I feel like we should unpack a little bit. This is not the opponent that you wanted when we recorded the special episode on Sunday. Unpack a little bit. I feel more confident about Tarek Skubal than I think some other people are. I think that the Tigers are going to do all right, at least in this game 1.
I don't think they're low on Tarek Skubal because he won the Triple Crown in pitching for the lowest ERA, most Ks, and most wins in the American League. I think they're more so low on the Tigers hitting behind Tarek Skubal. Like, he might give up maybe 1 or 2 runs, but I don't think they have the faith in the Tigers to score more runs than the Astros in 9 innings, which is fair because the Tigers came on late, and even during their surge at the end to make the wild card spot, like, you did see games where it's like, oh, they went 8 innings and only have 3 hits, and 2 of them are bloop singles, and that's not going to get it done. Then all of a sudden they score 4 in the 8th or 4 in the 9th, and it's like, oh, wow. But even with this last series with the White Sox, you saw moments where they struggled to score against the White Sox, who historically had the worst MLB season in modern baseball. So I understand them being kind of low in the Tigers' offense. I don't think it's Tarek at all, though, because he's proven that if you can give him 1 or 2 runs, he can win you a game by not giving up more than that.
Well, one report I saw actually predicted that he would be knocked out early by the Astros.
Yeah, okay, that guy, I won't say what he's doing, but he's doing something that he probably should lay off of.
So do you think it comes down to hitting, right? Like, the Tigers need to hit. If they can hit, we can win this game.
It really does. Tarek Skubal gives them kind of like old Verlander, kind of like Max Scherzer, kind of like Porcello when he was really good before he went to Boston and fell off. If you have a really great pitcher who can limit the other team to 2 to 3 runs, maybe even 1 run, all you have to do is score 3 or 4 runs. And I know that sounds like a little bit, but like, hitting in baseball is very hard. It's like one of the hardest things to do in all of sports. But you can get your pitcher 3 to 4 runs, a great pitcher, not like a really bad one, but a great pitcher, 3 to 4 runs. The onus is on them to hold the other team to 2 runs. 3, whatever runs you have, hold them to 1 less run than that. If you can do that, then they've done their job as a team. I think against the Astros, who have a pretty decent hitting team still, even after moving all these parts, they still have Jose Altuve, who's like pound for pound, inch for inch, one of the best players in the league today, if not in history at second base. So like, it's going to be very hard because he presents a lot of challenges. But I think they might have a better chance this game than they will the second game if they don't get the win.
Okay. Do you have a bold series prediction? I know we haven't seen anything yet. It's hard because it's a 3-game series, but do you have a prediction? Do you think that the Tigers can pull this one off?
I think the series goes 3 games. I don't know if Detroit pulls it out, though. I think Detroit gets 1 for sure. I don't know if they pull it out, though.
Okay. I'm going to be more optimistic. I want to believe that we can at least get past this. I want to see us. Like, I would love to see something like a Cleveland series or something like that. And I just want Verlander to lose.
I mean, yeah, that's fair, too. I'm really pleased that he's not the starting pitcher against Tarek because that, I'm glad that he's not the number 1 ace they're putting out there because that would make me a little bit sad to have to see that. But, yeah.
Let's turn to the Lions. A victory on a national stage, which I love to see. 42-29. I was nervous at that first drive where it fell apart, 3 and out. I was like, oh no. But the rest of the game, it felt like the Detroit Lions had things 2 scores up almost all the way through. If the Seahawks scored, the Lions scored to match. I love to see it, and I love to see Jared Goff getting his first NFL touchdown catch. How awesome is that from Amon-Ra St. Brown? This was a fun game to watch. I feel like these were more of the Lions. It's not perfect. There are definitely things to work on, but this was more of the Lions that you want to see or could see in a NFC championship game.
it was Jared Goff's first ever touchdown catch, period. Like, not just in pro football, but like all of football, he said afterwards. And obviously you can't hope for your quarterback to throw north of 15 passes and complete 15 said passes for 220 yards. But watching him go 18 for 18 against the defense that's pretty good, kind of banged up, but still pretty good, is great. Even if when you broke it down by yardage, it's like he threw for 263 yards, 280 something yards. 270 of them came after the reception. So like it was really him throwing a short pass or him throwing a 15-yard pass and someone taking it 40, 50 yards. Point in case, the touchdown pass to Jamison Williams, who caught that little drag route, the 10, 12-yard drag route, and turned up the field, and you just watched him go at the same speed and everyone else just go a lot slower. That's game-breaking speed the Lions have not had as a receiver in some time. They've had it in Kelvin. They've had it maybe with Javid Best out of the back, but it's been a while since they've had a receiver who can catch a pass in space. If you give him a yard or two, he's gone. And having a weapon like that, it's why the Kansas City Chiefs were so great with Tyreek Hill. It's why the Dolphins were great with Tyreek Hill. It's why the Chiefs were great with Dante Hall, and Vikings had Randy Moss at times, where you have a receiver who just, you give him an inch of space and open space and he's gone. Like you're not catching him. The cameras might not even catch him as he's running into the end zone. The running backs were great. Jahmyr Gibbs showed that he has some power that people did not know. David Montgomery showed that he has some quickness people did not know. I know before the game they had a safety, Tyrell Duran, for the Seahawks. He was like, they're not that effing tough. And you super cut that with David Montgomery running him over as he steps into the end zone. And it's like, this is great. And obviously I know people want to talk about the penalties. I know Carlton Davis was getting called a lot for holding DK Metcalf and like pass interference. I'll say this. I'm somewhat okay with some of those, and the reason why people might not realize this, Kelvin Johnson was 6'5", 240, ran a 4.3 40. DK Metcalf is 6'4", 240, runs a 4.3 40. Sometimes you have to just hold them and hope that they don't call it, especially if you're not that big or fast. And DK Metcalf, while he did complain a lot, he's a physical freak. If you don't hold him sometimes or get there a little bit early at sometimes, he's going to put up 200 yards. Like, that's going to happen. And that's what makes what Kelvin Johnson did a little bit more special, because he was getting held the same way a lot of the times, and he was able to go up over people and still get it. And DK Metcalf can do that. He showed during the game. He had that almost touchdown where he sent Carlton the wrong way, went down the sideline, happened to fall right at the one as opposed to getting in. Like, yeah. The defense still struggles with mobile quarterbacks. Geno Smith is not really that mobile anymore. Never really was super mobile, but he could get out of the pocket and run. And you saw moments where he would have to get out of the pocket and run, and there was no one there to stop him. He'd pick up 6, 7, 8 yards, turn up the field, run the ball a few times, look up the field and make an extra throw. You want to see some more pressure, which is not really on the defensive line so much. I mean, maybe on one side of the end, but I know Aiden was working super hard. He didn't get a sack, but he was putting pressure up all night. But you want to see some more pressure, maybe a little bit more from the linebackers, maybe a spy. I know Aaron Glenn hates spying the quarterback, but you want to see someone to limit the quarterback getting out of the pocket, because it's going to present problems for the defense if you can't keep that quarterback in there to get sacked, as opposed to him getting on the edge and then getting up the field. But yeah, the defense overall, in my opinion, played pretty well. Talk about Terry and Arnold with his holding and his pass interference. I expected that. And the reason why I expected that is because at Alabama, he was a very handsy cornerback. And at Alabama, big fish, small pond. You sometimes at bigger schools, you get away with a few things that you probably shouldn't. And he gets to the pros and like, yeah, you might do a few things you learned in college. You might get called to them. You might not. Unfortunately for him, primetime game, everyone's looking at you. If you do some of these things, they're going to flag you. And the funniest one to me was at the goal line where he's pointing at the Jumbotron, like, look, you're about to see what happened. And the next play, you see him literally put the receiver in a headlock and fall forward. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely defensive holding, man. Like, you definitely committed the foul there. And it's okay. You're learning. You still played a great game. You had the game-breaking pass breakup right before the interception that occurred the following drive. Like you did something to help your team win. It wasn't like you did nothing, but you got to tighten that up. And he'll learn. It's his rookie season. He'll learn how to play better without using your hands as much, or how to use your hands a bit more sneakily and not get caught.
Yeah, so you're not as worried about Tarian, because I had my concerns because he's racked up a ton of penalties this season so far, not just this game.
He has, but when they drafted him as this bump and run corner who makes great coverage, but he's really aggressive. Kind of like Enos Rakestraw they got later in the draft. Guys who are a bit bigger, maybe not as quick, but a bit bigger, better cover corners, but also very physical. They'll use their hands. And sometimes if you use your hands too much, people will see that and then throw a flag. I'm not worried about that because he's in a good spot. He's got two corners around him, and Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson, who will probably help him more often in how to cover using your hips and your legs more so than your hands. As Troy Aikman said, albeit he was a little bit harsh on the rookie, when he gets in trouble, he grabs. And like that's very much a rookie thing sometimes. When you're in trouble as a defensive back, whether it's a corner or a safety and the receiver by you think they're going to cut and break down to go by you. And if you're a pro veteran, you've been doing it for a while, you know when they break down, shift your hips, go after them. As a rookie, you know this as well. But of course, they break on you. The light goes off in your head and you're like, I have to hold him. I have to make sure he doesn't get too far away from me in case he wants to do a double move. And of course, you could put a hand on these receivers. They're professionals as well. They know if I get grabbed in any sort of way, I'm putting my hands up immediately to show that someone's grabbing me. They're going to see it, throw a flag, or I'm going to trip and go down, flag. So like, he's going to learn. He's going to learn. I'm not worried about it. Now, if we're like season 3, season 2 of him and he's still doing the same things, I'm worried then.
Okay, so how are you feeling about the team heading into the bye week?
If they would have played the same way they played and lost this game, I would have still felt pretty well because the offense showed that they can be explosive. Amon-Ra showed he can chew up yards. Waymo showed he can get out there and run. The running back showed they can chew up yards in the middle. The defense shows they can play well. Jake Bates is kind of scaring me with a few of these short extra points, but they won. So I feel a little bit better about that. I know that they can turn it up when they need to. The thing that they need to do the most, and it's really just something that everyone wants to do in sports, is consistency. They got to put together 4 quarters. They can't play 2.5 quarters against a quality team because Seattle, while they did have a bit of a weaker schedule, they are a quality team, and you play 2.5 quarters against them, and the game was starting to be a blowout. They started getting close again. So play 4 quarters, get healthy, and they'll be fine. Winning that game without Frank Ragnow or Brian Branch was like huge because those are 2 cornerstones to your defense. And without Brian Branch, it made Kirby Joseph, typically a free safety, have to play some strong safety for part of that game. And oh my God, I don't want to see that ever again. That is not his position. He is good at making tackles in the defensive backfield. He is not great at rushing down to sack the quarterback. I prefer him to be back there like he did, intercepting balls at the end of the game to seal the game. So get healthy, play more consistent ball, and this team will be at least back to where they were last year.
Fletcher Sharpe, so good to check in with you, man. I cannot wait to catch back up about the Tigers real soon.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
And that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening to Your Daily Detroit. You know, the best way to grow the show is for you to tell a friend or two about it. Word of mouth is how podcasts grow. You know, the little secret is that social media doesn't do that much to grow the show. It's you all that help us do it. So send it to a friend, email it, do something. It'd be great. Anyway, I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.